one side is anti-drugs, the other side is for drugs. But when you trace down the strings, you find out that only one person is pulling the strings.
Well, you think? Are you sure? Because I'm not.
Because Taliban, what they did was made everything ready for what you see right now in Afghanistan.
How did CIA asset?
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry,
How did they? How did they do that? By that religious dictatorship, which was very brutal, inhuman. I've seen lots because I was in that region when Taliban were in power, and I've seen things that it's extremely extreme. I cannot even repeat that. How they prosecuted their enemies. It was totally inhuman. So obviously,
okay, I'm going to argue a little bit with you on that because I mean this is going to be interesting because I'm not an expert in it, but I remember reading about Afghanistan.
Okay.
I remember this is kind of pulp history, I admit it, but his name was James Michener. He wrote many things, but Michener tended to be pretty accurate in the theme. I think I don't know, maybe I'm mistaken, but he emphasized the historical aspects of Afghanistan and. They've always never messed around. Like you steal something, you lose your arm, you lose your hand. Period! Exclamation!
No, that's not true.
Well,
that's not true because
really?
Afghanistan being through Afghanistan being through Zahir Shah, and then Afghanistan went through the Najibullah, Dr. Najibullah. Zahir Shah was a king of Afghanistan before Najibullah. Najibullah was the president, but they had secular law. They had, at the time of Zahir Shah, and especially Najibullah. Najibullah was a communist.
Okay, but I'm not talking about the labels, communist law. I'm talking about historical kind of cultural things for millennium back.
They did not know anything about this. I mean, I'm talking about the modern time. And before that, Afghanistan was part of Iran. And goes back, of course.
That wasn't really that part of the Middle East that was like steal something, cut your hand off. That were more other parts, right?
Yeah, recently.
Really Afghanistan.
Exactly. Recently
they've gone to that, but historically they weren't.
No, historically, like for instance in Iran, if you steal things like you go to jail, or you wouldn't lose your limb.
Who would win?
Like I'm talking about, like for instance, in Afghanistan, in Iran, but lately, because for instance, they after Najibullah, then Wahhabis. Do you know who are Wahhabis?
Yes.
Wahhabis push for it because Wahhabis go with this Saudi Arabian tradition and things like that.
What you're thinking, the type of culture you're thinking of is more Saudi Arabia area rather than Afghanistan.
Yeah, this is something new, surprising.
Well, maybe so. Like I said, Mr. Made it, but I mean, I'm talking about the Afghan culture over centuries. They've been a very warrior-like culture. Which I give them credit for.
That's
why they've been so hard to dominate.
Absolutely, Pashtuns themselves, who call themselves Afghans, they're very strict about lots of things. Their law is beyond Islam.
Yeah,
beyond and before Islam. It's sometimes even more, more harsh than Islamic law.
My point.
But for many, many years, for instance, when they were under British rules, they were not practicing these Pashtun laws.
I know that. I'm saying that, but I'm talking about. Okay, frankly, let's get it. I'm not blaming you at all, but I'm over the top with this castigation of the Taliban as this devil worshiper, this horrible thing. I don't agree with a lot of stuff. It's a different religion, it's a different practices, but let's look at the historical context of this group, okay? And I'm going to propose that if we looked at this, we might actually see that the Taliban is more mild than some of the historical traditions and cultural aspects of like Afghanistan.
That might be true, but it's important to remember that those guys were CIA assets too. A lot of them.
Well, the Al Qaeda is CIA. I'm not convinced that the Taliban is CIA.
Taliban is also very CIA trained.
Is it?
Because what is the meaning of Taliban?
I don't know. What is it?
Yeah, basically in Arabic and also in Pashtun language, it means students. But what
It means students?
Yeah.
Okay.
Islamic students.
Yeah. Okay.
They went to madrasas that were supported and financed by Saudi Arabia.
I get that.
All they learned was
What's that got to do with CIA?
because CIA was
funded the madrasas.
because there is a
lot of
clip.
them.
Okay.
There is a clip.
I get that.
There is a clip that basically Brzezinski comes to Afghanistan, get off the helicopter, and says, "Hey, this is your land. Those are your mosques. We are going to help you. We're going to give you weapons. We are going to give you money.
Of course.
You take back your
Right,
mosque."
from the Russians.
Yeah.
I mean,
and-
look at Charlie Wilson's War. It's a great movie on that whole thing.
Yeah. So
And I think it's fairly accurate.
yeah, so basically there is a history of how I don't want to say CIA because how the interest groups over here help them to
Right.
take
Right.
Afghanistan.
Right.
But when you go back to, for instance, the time of the Zahir Shah and
Okay.
take a look at Kabul,
Uh-huh.
Kabul was a very modernized city with modernized people, doctors, students, women who were almost half naked. They were very pretty, and
What period is this?
Zahir Shah, I would say,
19.
I would say 1960, in 60s and before I was born.
All right, so
And-
50s through.
And then it comes up to 80s because then
Right.
Najibullah took over. And Najibullah,
Right.
because he was a secular guy, I don't want to get into the socialist or communist, whatever, but he was a secular guy. He said like separation of church and not church, mosque and state. And they kind of practiced that for a while. I believe for at least 5 years at the time of Najibullah, but then somehow they lost power over there, and then
Well,
Well, then the
Mujahideen took
Taliban
over.
take over.
No, well, Taliban after first Mujahideen took over, who were supported again.
The Taliban, and wasn't that in the 90s?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, but Mujahideen were before them, kind of.
Okay, in the
between.
middle. Yes, that's
Yeah,
right.
in the middle. And Mujahideen were actually very moderate. As a matter of fact, their leader was called Rabbani. Rabbani was a moderate guy. He was an Islamic guy. He believed in Islam and just Sharia and Islamic law, but he was very moderate. So it was a process of stepping stones. Like they didn't jump into Taliban right away.
Right.
It took a lot of time to
Well-
make people ready for
The
leaving
Mujahideen
Syria.
and then the Taliban, so that then we
Yes.
could go into Afghanistan and overthrow the Taliban.
Yes.
Basically.
Yes. So
That's what I mean. That's
Yeah.
that's my point.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think they've been set up, and in parlance, they've been set up.
yeah, they have been set up definitely. So I think the whole G20 is a big setup too.
Okay, great. That's right. We have
Because-
gone a little off track there. I'm
No,
sorry.
no. That's all right. I'm
I think
saying
you
that-
went too,
fact,
I don't
maybe too
understand
far in
why.
depth for our general audience.
But I don't understand why Turkey is in it, why Brazil in it. There are countries that are debt-free. They're not a part of that. I don't understand it.
Well, it's not about that. It's about, in my humble opinion,
Okay.
Global government practicing taking control over local individual cities and seeing,
Sure.
Right.
okay, can we do the same thing in Pittsburgh that we're doing in Canada? Can we do the same thing
Very
in
good.
Canada that we're doing in Turkey? How easy is it for global governance to take control of city after city around the globe? It's not about what they say it's about. It's about
Right.
control,
So-
in my
Very good.
opinion.
No,
I think you're
absolutely.
right. I agree with you. My
Let-
opinion's with your opinion.
Sure. Let's, Sam, if that clip is ready that women actually been